Hi everyone, welcome or welcome back. My name is Yuna, and I hope that you took some time this last week to do something fun, to rest, to take care of yourself. I am in deep denial about this, but somehow we are almost halfway through the year. I wish that I could say that I've been enjoying 2026, but that would be a bald-faced lie. I don't know, between billionaires trying to control everything, AI, data centers ruining drinking water for everybody, ongoing genocides, there's just so much that has been absolutely a nightmare, and it has been quite a Herculean task to try to balance being outraged and informed and plugged into what's going on and also trying to enjoy my life, the one and only life that I have to live. But I will say that one thing that brings me some sort of fulfillment and joy and escapism, but also education and engagement, has always been reading and continues to be reading. So as we move into June and approach the second half of 2026, I am here today to share with you my hopefuls slash soft TBR for June. I'm going to talk about 16 books today, and I feel like I give the same disclaimer every time I do one of these TBR videos, but just in case you're new here, I'll give the same spiel again. My TBRs are not promises or contracts, they're really just suggestions for what I'm going to try to get to in the next month, and depending on a bunch of factors, I may get to some of these, I may get to none of these. I'll probably get to most of them, to be honest, but there's nothing solid about this. Also, I know 16 books might sound bonkers, but half of those, 8 of these books are novellas, and some of them are pretty short. They're going to be like, I don't know, like 40 to 100 pages. So I'm not trying to read 16 big thickums, like big fantasy full novels or anything like that. I'm looking at 8 novellas and then 8 regular length novels. All right, that's enough rambling though. Let me get into the books. I'm going to start with a book that I talked about in last month's TBR video, and I didn't end up getting to it, so I'm throwing it back on this month's hopeful list. That is Seasons of Glass and Iron by Amal El-Mohtar. I've talked about this in several of my recent videos, so I'm not going to go into it too much, but this is by Amal El-Mohtar, who is one of my favorite authors. I've raved about her several times, but this is her newest release. I think it released in March. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it released in March. This is a collection of short stories, and I'm going to assume that all of them have some sort of fantastical or sci-fi or magical realism element to them. I've heard pretty much only good things, and I'm really excited to get to this. Amal has such a beautiful writing style. It's very emotional and descriptive. I'm particularly excited to get to this book because I feel like I've been reading a lot of authors recently who have more of a clean and precise and straightforward kind of prose, and while I still enjoy those books or have enjoyed a lot of books with that style, my general preference leans towards writing that is a bit more evocative and emotional and descriptive, and that is so Amal. So I'm very excited to get to this. This is going to be a buddy read with a friend on Instagram, so once we're able to coordinate, hopefully this month, if not, it doesn't really matter, but hopefully whenever we're able to coordinate, we will get to this, and I feel like I'm going to be sending the most unhinged updates as I sob over this book. Of the novellas that I talked about, this is one of the longer ones. It's just under 200 pages. It's like 190 pages or something like that, but I just know I'm going to fly right through this. Yeah. The next book that I'm going to talk about is another novella. This time it is a horror novella called The Salt Grows Heavy by Cassandra Khaw. This one is shorter than the last book I talked about. It is quite little. It is only about 90 pages, so it's less than 100 pages. And actually, I bought this book a year and a half ago. It's been a little bit, so I don't really actually remember what it's about, but I think it's a horror book, but I think it has a mermaid, a plague doctor, someone's a cannibal, and there are children in the forest, so there's like a village of children, I think. Let me see how close I got. You may think you know how the fairy tale goes. A mermaid comes to shore and weds the prince, but what the fables forget is that mermaids have teeth, and now her daughters have devoured the kingdom and burned it to ashes. On the run, the mermaid is joined by a mysterious plague doctor with a darkness of their own. Deep in the eerie, snow-crusted forest, the pair stumble upon a village of ageless children who thirst for blood and 3 saints who control them. The mermaid and her doctor must embrace the cruelest parts of their true nature if they hope to survive. So actually, I wasn't that far off. I actually remember the premise better than I thought I did. But I'm really excited to read this. And Cassandra, I believe, I'll check this, but I'm pretty sure Cassandra uses they them pronouns. But Cassandra has another book out called what is it? Nothing But Blackened Teeth. I don't know if you can see the cover, but I'm hoping that I like this book because if I do want to check out Nothing But Blackened Teeth because it has the freakiest cover. So yeah, you know what, I'm just gonna go through all of the novellas first. And next up I have A Song for the Wild Built and A Prayer for the Crown Shy, both by one of my favorite authors and probably my favorite sci-fi author, Becky Chambers. Becky Chambers is the author of the Wayfarer series, which is right here, and I don't think I haven't read anything of her since I finished that series last year. I'm pretty sure I finished it last year. So it's been a while since I've read anything of hers, and I've had these books also for maybe a year, and I just haven't gotten around to reading them. So this series is the duology of these little novellas that are about 120 pages, 130 pages long, and from what I understand, they are about a monk, a monk and a robot who have a series of heartfelt philosophical conversations over tea. And I feel like these might follow in the vein of the Wayfarer series, where they're not necessarily very plot driven, they're more explorations of humanity and connection and all of those things. It's been centuries since the robots of Panga gained self-awareness and laid down their tools. Centuries since they wandered en masse into the wilderness, never to be seen again. Centuries since they faded into myth and urban legend. One day, the life of a tea monk is upended by the arrival of a robot there to honor the old promise of checking in. The robot has one question: what do people need? But the answer to that question depends on who you ask and how. They're going to need to ask it a lot. I feel like I held off on reading these books until just the right time because I am just constantly so stressed and angry and devastated and infuriated by the world around me. And I'm reading some of the quotes on the back or reviews on the back, and I just feel like it might be the hug that I need and they might make me cry. Chambers' writing is always tender and healing, but this book has something else braided into it, something more. This is a book that for one night made me stop asking, what am I even for? I'm prescribing a pre-order to anyone who has ever felt lost. Stunning, kind, necessary. Reading this book felt like a warm cup of tea made by someone who loves me. It made me cry the good sort of tears, the sort when someone, oh my god, it's literally making me tear up and get choked up reading just this review of it. It made me cry the good sort of tears, the sort when someone is unexpectedly kind to you at the moment you need it most. One of the most humane books I've read in a long time. We could all use a read like this right now. So like I said, I feel like this is the perfect time for me to read these books. I feel like I really need them. I need a book that feels like a warm hug. I need a book that feels like it's been written by someone who loves me. So yeah, I'm going to read these two and I will, I'll let you know what I think. I feel pretty confident that I'm going to love them because I love Becky Chambers' writing. Even the books of hers that weren't necessarily my favorites, I still feel like have a lot of heart and are written with a lot of love. So yeah, definitely looking forward to this duology. All right, the last four novellas or novelettes or short stories or whatever you want to call them are all part of a collection. They're part of a collection called Trespass, I think, and that is supposed to explore the themes of animal instincts or animals and wildlife and humans or something like that. And it's going to be one of the collections that I mentioned that I'm not going to be spending too much time talking about. They are produced by Amazon. I mentioned this previously, I think in my last TBR video, but I personally don't have an Amazon account and I don't encourage people to use or support Amazon. But through a kind of convoluted situation, I have access to someone else's Amazon account through which I can read these short story collections. So I'm going to read some of them. I looked at this collection and I'm only interested in reading, I think, 4 out of the 6 or 7 authors. Some of them I'm just like, I don't want to read those authors. But I'm going to read those little novellas, short stories, but I'm not going to spend too much time on them. I don't really want to, I don't know, encourage people to be using Amazon. Use your money how you want, but I don't think it's a company that should be supported. But again, I have access to these stories without paying for them, so here I am. I'll put one or a couple of the covers on the screen, but I'm not going to linger on them too long, and in my review, I'm also just going to breeze by them. First full-length book that I'm going to talk about that I'm hoping to read in June is Betty by Tiffany McDaniel. I talked about this in my last haul video, and this is a book that I've heard such high praise for, although I don't necessarily feel like I see it circulating a lot on the internet. I have heard praise from those who do talk about it. This is a story about a little girl named Betty who is growing up in rural Appalachia. She has a white mom and a Cherokee father and this big family, and they're all trying to survive things like poverty, living in this very rural area. They're trying to survive poverty and racism, and it's supposed to be a very emotional coming of age story. And I believe that it's based on, I think it was Tiffany McDaniel's mother's life, I'm pretty sure. Despite the hardships she faces, Betty is resilient. Her curiosity about the natural world, her fierce love for her sisters, and her father's brilliant stories are kindling for the fire of her own imagination. And in the face of all to which she bears witness, Betty discovers an escape. She begins to write. Yeah, I don't have a whole lot else to say about this. Like all the other books on this list, I'm looking forward to getting to it. And I don't think that I've ever read a book that was set in rural Appalachia, so yeah, that'll be a first. The next is a book that I also talked about in the same haul video as Betty, I'm pretty sure, and that is Sabrina and Corina by Callie Fariado-Anstein. Sabrina and Corina is a moving narrative of unrelenting feminine power and an exploration of the universal experience of abandonment, heritage, and an eternal sense of home. And what's really special about this collection is that it focuses on the experiences and lives and culture of Indigenous Latinas. I might be wrong about this, but I think it focuses on Indigenous Latinas in the western portion of the United States. And again, that's a population that I haven't really read about, so I definitely want to get to this next month. This is going to be one of the ones that I would like to prioritize. And she has a book, a full-length book called Woman of Light or Women of Light, something like that. And if I enjoy the short story collection, then I will try to pick that up from the library. Also, the art on this cover is so stunning. I hope that my camera isn't washing it out too much. If it is, I'll like put an image of it on the screen because I just think it's so beautiful. Ooh, okay, so the next book is one that I have had on my TBR for at least a year, and I've been wanting to get to it, and I was able to pick it up for like $1, I think, on Pango, so it was a freaking steal. That book is Beautyland by Marie-Helene Bertino. This, I'm pretty sure, lives kind of at the intersection of literary fiction and sci-fi. That's so random. Dakota Johnson is on the back of this book as saying, a book that I will recommend to people for the rest of my life. Even as a child, Adina Giorno knows that she is different. She is from a faraway planet. The arrival of a fax machine allows her to report back on the oddities of Earthlings. For years, she makes a life for herself among humans and dispatches transmissions on the terrors and wonders of their existence. So the book is about this girl, Adina, who grows up believing that she is an alien, and she has been placed on Earth to observe humans, and she uses this fax machine to send back her observations on people, what they're scared of, what they love. And I'm not sure if it only follows her as a child or if we follow her through adulthood or whatever it may be, but that sounds like such a interesting premise, and I think that it has the room to be really poignant and heartfelt and to be an interesting look at what it is to observe human beings, even if you're a human, to observe human beings believing that you're not one of them. And I'm so curious how that would affect the way that you observe people and what would come across as strange versus natural. Again, this is the book that I don't feel like I see too much getting recommended, but when I do see it, it's usually followed with praise, so I'm hoping I like this because the premise just sounds so interesting. Alright, next on my list I have two books that I picked up while I was at BookCon. The first of the books that I picked up at BookCon is The Unnamed by M.S. Masood. I picked this up at the Indie Author Alley at BookCon, and it's really fun because when I purchased the book, they also wrote my name in Arabic on a bookmark for me. This is an aside, but this actually really made me emotional because the last time that I saw my name written in Arabic was when I was studying abroad in Morocco, so I don't know, it just like brought me back. My host family that I lived with gifted me this little wooden keychain thing that had my name engraved in Arabic on it, and actually it broke off and I ended up losing that at some point, I think. So I don't know, just seeing this made me very emotional and brought me back to hanging out with my host family when I was living in Morocco, but that is a complete aside. First of all, I think that this cover is so cool, and funny story, when I was buying this book, I wasn't able to read the font well, so I asked her, I was like, oh, how do you pronounce the title? It's just The Unnamed, which is completely pronounceable to me, but I didn't realize that that's what it said in that font, so I probably look like a fool. The Unnamed, the first book in a gripping new fantasy duology, is a bold reimagining of Rumpelstiltskin that examines the transformative power of names, identity, self-growth, and love, while delivering fast-paced action and slow-burning romance that will leave readers eager for more. I also got my copy signed, and the author wrote, "Dear Yuna, reading is resistance," which fuck yeah it is. This is one of the books that I'm not positive I'm gonna get to in June. It might end up being July, but I'm gonna try my best to get to it in June because an anti-colonial retelling of Rumpelstiltskin just sounds so freaking fire. I really do want to get to it. So fingers crossed things work out, but either way I will get to this soon. The other book that I got at BookCon that I'm hoping to get to next month is Devil in the Deep by Valencia Jean-Francois. Look at this cover. Is it not freaking stunning? They have like a conch shell on their head as a crown. It's so beautiful. I'm tempted to save this for a future judging a book by its cover reading vlog because this is a book that I saw it laying there on the table and I was like, it would be cheating a little bit though, because for the books that I read for my judging a book by its cover series, I only judge them by the cover and I don't read the back or anything like that. But the person who was working the table did give me a short sentence to sell the book to me, so I know a little bit what it's about, but not that much. I think this book was sold to me as I should pick it up if I want to read about queer, black, Haitian mermaids and pirates. Like, what do you mean? In what world would I not want to read about queer Haitian pirates and mermaids? So I do know a little bit what it's about, but I'm stopping myself from reading the back too closely because maybe I will try to stop it at that and save this for a future reading vlog, but I'm not sure. I might just cave and read it next month. All right, the last 3 books that I have to talk about are the books that I'm hoping to read for the reading vlog for June. And obviously June is Pride Month, so I'm going to be reading some gay ass books. I don't know if I want to read all 3 of these books for the reading vlog or if I'm going to just pick 2. I feel like 3 for me and the way that I do my vlogs is kind of a lot, so I might just try to trim it down to 2 of these books. Or I could do all 3 books and just do fewer check-ins because I've been doing the quarter way, the halfway, the 3/4 way, and then the final check-ins generally for my reading vlog. So maybe I'll do all 3 but just keep it to the halfway check-in and the final check-in. I don't know. If you guys have an opinion, let me know if you would rather I do all 3 of these books, or if you think I should just pick 2, let me know which 2 you think I should do. Could also consider doing Devil of the Deep as part of that reading vlog. I hadn't considered it because, again, I didn't read very closely into what it's about, but it was sold to me as being queer, so potentially. But the other books that I'm considering for the reading vlog, I will start with Sunburn by Chloe Michelle Howarth. I talked about this also in one of my haul videos, and this is a queer coming-of-age story that's set in the 1990s in this small rural town in Ireland. And I don't know why I've gotten the sense in my head that it's one of those small towns where everyone's up in your business, got their noses up your ass and want to know what's going on. That might not even be true. I don't know why I have that in my head, but it is definitely set in a small rural town. It follows a teenage girl named Lucy who begins to develop romantic feelings for her best friend Susanna, and I think it's about whether or not she decides to go after those feelings and pursue that romance, or whether she kind of caves to the expectations of the small rural town. A beautiful coming of age love novel written with an insightful poetical prose rich with religious allegory. This is an often gut-wrenching divulgence into a complex queer story that painstakingly captures the realities of queerness in 1990s small town Ireland. I'm being promised lush poetic writing and queer heartbreak, so the second option I have for that reading vlog is A Language of Limbs by Dylan Hardcastle. This is by a trans author, and it starts in the 1970s in Australia and follows 2 teenage girls who develop feelings, but I'm pretty sure what happens is the book follows them over the course of several decades, and it's kind of a will they, won't they, and you see how their lives and their relationships kind of cross and develop against the backdrop of other world events. A Language of Limbs is an ecstatic world of a queer love story. Hardcastle's vivid prose transported me to a queer past and future rooted in community and love, even amid grief. The prose is textured, viscous almost, an ooze of sweet honey shot through with golden light. A Language of Limbs is a novel of impeccable vibes and mood, a gay hymnal written from inside the guts of the 2 protagonists. That sounds amazing. The third option I was considering, the last book I'm going to talk about, Young Mungo by Douglas Stewart. If you watched my April wrap-up, I think it was it April or March, I can't remember. If you watched one of those wrap-ups, then you know that his other book, Shiggy Bane, absolutely sent me into a spiral of devastation. That book made me want to launch my body into the sun and never be heard from again. Yeah, he hurt me really bad, so I'm back for more. I know I'm sounding dramatic, but that book really hurt my heart in so many ways, and Douglas Stewart was so masterful at just creating these incredibly complicated and broken people. I don't know, he just did such a great job, and he's one of those authors whose writing style isn't necessarily the kind of writing that I generally prefer. He has a pretty straightforward and unadorned style, but it's just so good. Now that I've read a little bit about Douglas Stewart and his background, I think that a lot of the power of his writing comes from the fact that he writes a lot about what he knows, about what has affected him and his childhood and his life growing up. In Young Mungo, it seems like Stewart is once again visiting this realm of topics or communities that he is familiar with. And in this book, we are following a 15-year-old boy named James who is navigating and trying to survive poverty and neglectful parenting and homophobia. He's doing all of this while experiencing his first love with a boy named James. Mungo and James are born under different stars. Mungo is a Protestant and James a Catholic, and they should be sworn enemies. Yet against all odds, they fall in love as they find sanctuary and dream of escape in the pigeon dovecote that James has built for his prize racing birds. But when Mungo's mother sends him on a fishing trip to a remote loch with 2 strange men, he will need all his strength and courage to find his way back to a place where he and James might still have a future. This novel cuts you and then bandages you back up. I'm scared! I'm so scared. I feel like this book is once again going to have me crying on my kitchen floor, but I am very excited, and I feel like if Young Mungo is a home run, then I might consider Douglas Stewart one of my auto-buy favorite authors. So to review, for the options I have for my Queer Pride Month reading vlog next month, I have A Language of Limbs, I have Young Mungo, I have Sunburn, and oh my god, I have Sunburn, and finally I have Devil of the Deep. And looking at it like this, I'm wondering if I should include Devil of the Deep because otherwise it'll just be a bunch of queer white stories. But I do really want to save this for the reading vlog where I read books based on their covers. But I don't know, we'll see. I'll do some thinking and let me know if you have a preference. If you could pick just two, maybe three books of these four for me to read in a reading vlog next month, a queer themed reading vlog, let me know which ones you would like to see. Maybe if I don't include this one, I'll try to find another book that is a queer love story with people of color. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. All right, so that was all 16 of the books slash novellas that I am hoping to read in June. Again, I don't know that I'll get to all of those. I doubt that I'll get to all of those, but we'll see what I manage to read. I have three friends who are coming to visit from out of state next month, and while they're here, they're going to be here for about 4 days, maybe like a long weekend. And while they're around, I'm not going to be doing a whole lot of reading. I'm going to be hanging out with my friends. So we'll see what I manage to get through. It might not be a lot. We'll see. If you've read any of the books I've talked about in this video, let me know in the comments. Keep it spoiler free, but let me know what you thought. If you have any books that you're planning to read for June that you're really excited for, also please let me know in the comments what they are. Thank you all of you who have managed to stick around and listen to me ramble. I appreciate every single one of you. Happy reading, and I will see you in the next one. Bye. Look at this cover. Look at this cover. Do you see how freaking beautiful this